Welcome in everyone, Futsutsuka's here, glad you could join me. I've got an update for the PvP tier list video, so this one will be for the end of November. Currently on screen is my July list. A lot of the lower tiers I've trimmed down to make a more concise tier list. If there's a face on this list that you don't see on the next one, just consider them too outdated or have fallen off too much in the current meta. And without further ado, let's get to the new list. Alright, the regular notes are on the screen. We're not doing the SAR tier this time because you should pretty much be using Vindicator Lif, and if you don't have her yet, for early game just find any SARs that work for you until you get your Lif. I was thinking about doing a SAR tier list separately this time, but we'll see. So I took out the SAR tier and switched it with new. These are just the newest heroes. Most of them are PvE and probably ranked around a C. The exceptions would probably be Jubilant Herja, Jubilant Cinia, Debonair God Bylist, and Ghostly God Volley. These heroes would probably sit in the B tier rather than C. The rest of them are all gonna be C tier, not really intended for PvP. As a final note before going through the tiers, this tier list is intended for all PvP purposes. I consider it a decent representation of the attacking meta, although there will be differences there. This is largely reflective of a defensive meta. This data was taken from on screen. I'll be showing the November graph for the arena analysis, and this is usage on defense. How I gathered this information was took a look at the defense of all people in A rank arena top 10 of all 6 groups and looked at all 5 units of their first GA team. Since 1 unit is hidden from each person's team in rank A arena, there's only 4 units to see per team. That wouldn't have been a large enough sample size in my opinion. That's why I added the GA team. The sample size is 535 entries, although I think I missed one person's GA team because it should be 540. This information will be largely relevant in determining a unit's power and its relevancy to the meta of arena defense. Well, starting from the bottom, there might be a lot of things in the C tier that you think are okay or good, and that's fine. But in terms of the whole game and the things in SSS, having to use somebody in the C tier feels pretty subpar. That's where the comparison comes from. As far as the observers are concerned, the bottom 3 of the pack are most certainly Reneka, Labir, and Ulster. They are not seeming to be very strong in PvP. I won't put them any lower than B to begin with since they are observers and you can get their Primus level up and they may operate better, but observers are just ranked at Primus 0, so if something makes them even stronger, then they're just going to be stronger than where I have them. Everything else in the B tier is okay to use in PvP and would generally have no problem for any rank of arena. Alright, we've covered new C and B, let's switch it up and go to the top. The middle of the pack is kind of up for debate anyway. If they're good or strong, I do try to check my opinion with others' feedback before making relevant lists. Alright, let's talk Scorpio. She's probably the strongest unit in the game right now. She does so much for the team with the skill gauge conversion barrier, on top of everything else, including agitation light. The most bulky, crazy self buffs pretty much possible. Then all of her CCs ignores Grace, hits a lot of airborne, ignores barriers, shields, and counterattacks. You just can't stop her if she gets going. And then if you're airborne, forget about having Master. She also starts off with the 70% inherited immunity to all, plus Stone Skin, making her a contender that surpasses Ymir. Sunnyflower Denavia has made her way to the SSS scene. She is on the most common used team on defense right now. We can understand why when we see an all-ally boon and stack up skill gauge 30 and airborne amp. With an all-enemy thunder chain vortex and triple hit components that ignore barrier, she does a lot of damage. Her awakening passive is Fire Spirit and will give all allies 80% wind chain reduction and the Divine Soma opener. Observer Arqueus or Aquarius is also on SSS. Arceus herself gives all allies skill gauge down nullify. Her kit has 3 CC that hits 3 races, has skill gauge down, element shreds, defense shreds, and damage that ignores shields and barriers. Sacred Wings All has got to be one of the strongest passives in the game, and she gets that to herself, which also gives all allies excluding self another 20% skill gauge. She also has the Noble Appearance All, which preventing silence on top of fear is huge in the meta now. Her field is also bonkers if leveled up. I don't even know how many people have max Primus field observers, but even if you have them low Primus, they will do their job and run rampant. At levels 1 and 2, these field effects activate on turn 4. At skill level 3 and 4, they activate on turn 3. And once you hit level 5, they start activating on turn 1. So things change when you hit the 5 and the things activate on the first turn. Obviously, if you can get an observer to Primus level 5, then you should be using them in PvP. 3 new additions to the SSS. Jubilant Sortitia is the most commonly used mage on defense right now in the top 10. And all we need to know to understand why is to see an all-ally Shadow Clone, Celestial Favor, and 3 ally SAR 70. 3 ally Master stops all airborne, and if you're grounded, then say goodbye to Quick and Master. and Despair, your buffs. They've also given her Absolute Energy 3, the SAR down to 3 enemy and up to 3 ally. You have a flat amp to Grounded, 3 front enemy Curse and Frostburn, which could help. It makes your highest attack ally have Necromancy, which could be help with a cheesy win. Right opener to herself. She's really strong in the meta right now. She's used on the most common team alongside the Sunny Flower Denavia. 38 uses on defense in my data. There's no doubt that she's dominant in the meta right now. She gives an all ally Resolute, which is pretty rare, plus a boon on top, and an important all enemy flame chain, 4 enemy flame bound to 3 race. That'll Despair as well. Her field just makes her deal more damage to the race and elements of things that attack you and generate a little more skill gauge. She also has Absolute Energy 3, along with Anti-Laziness and Slow and Exhaust are pretty annoying CCs in PvP. You don't have to worry about them with her. And a flat 30% amp to Fire and Beasts. The final newcomer to our Triple S tier is Observer Skeppies. She is the biggest reason to not use Liv. She gives herself pretty decent buffs, then she gives the all ally skill conversion barrier, feint, grace, SAR 60, fire element res 30, which can come in handy. The 3 races she hits will be wind chained and prevented from getting frenzy, as well as stopped, that will ignore grace. Heavy shreds, large damage that ignores barriers and counterattack, and will give 60% SAR on grace. Her field gives an extra damage upon dodging, which is kind of interesting since she gives all allies feint. She can generate a lot of damage from that. As far as passives, guess who also has Absolute Energy 3? Another one in Triple S. Permanent Bravery All is pretty crazy as well. All ally Frenzy Opener plus stat debuff Nullify, and then a Ground Master to top it off. That is our Triple S tier complete, the most frequently used units on Arena Defense right now. For the rest of the rankings, a lot can be up for debate. I just wanted to get enough of them in a general area where I think they deserve to be. Some heroes obviously may not be where they deserve to be. This is all just my opinion after all. Obviously all those disclaimers. I forgot to note about Observer Capricorn. I don't think she's that strong in PvP, gonna sit around B or maybe not used at all. Collector Melvern got an awakening. I did not grab the new PFP, but she's effectively pretty strong. A lot of the units in double S or S may be stronger than the tier that they are in, but just because the meta is dominated by those in the triple S, it doesn't leave much room for other heroes who can't compete with that rank. Anyway, final wrap-up notes. Just know that this meta is dominated by Vindicator Liv. She's an account project that everybody should be working on. She's triple S for a reason. There's very few reasons to use any rangers other than her once you have her on your account, even at a 1-star. So any ranger unit, keep in mind they have to compare to a Liv. Why would you be using a weaker ranger unit if you could just use Liv on main arena? Alright everyone, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate your time very much. If you've enjoyed it, please leave a like. Leave a comment down below if you have any comments about heroes ranking. I have a Discord, the link is in the description. Hope everybody has a good day. So until next time, Foots out. Cheers.